Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram. This is fucking talking shit with Eagle episode 428. Hopefully, you guys have had an amazing Tuesday afternoon slash evening. I've got a great guest for you tonight. Herbal Alley on Instagram. Michael, how you doing this evening? You want to tell us how you're doing and where they can find you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Happy it's a little bit cooler. Uh, it was pretty hot, but everything's stable and doing great. So yeah, just happy to be here. Plugging away. I'm here in beautiful Southern Oregon, and it's a beautiful place here. I'm just super thankful to be here in a great environment, growing this amazing plant.
It is quite the amazing plant. And from what I can see of your IG there, you do one heck of a job with the plant. So that's why I asked you on to kind of get to know you a little bit, maybe formally introduce yourself into the cannabis community and tell us about your cannabis journey, is what I do here. So basically, you kind of ask, what the
Awesome.
questions
Yeah.
are. We always start off with when was your first experience with cannabis? What brought cannabis into your life? If you don't mind sharing.
No, I'm happy to share. Honestly, I was born in East LA, and my great grandma used it as medicine from my very beginnings. There was always from what I can remember, there was always a platter and zigzags on the table. And I was born in '73, so I've it's been part of my life beginning, obviously. But as I got older and went to parties and things, started recognizing this very familiar smell in the room. Being raised around it. Like I said, my great grandma, she would soak it in alcohol and rub it on her hands and stuff for her arthritis. And aunts and uncles, and it was part of life back then. um, um, Growing up, and as a youth, as I started going to school and stuff, I was pretty straight edge. I was pretty anti drug and alcohol, because I did see some family members and some people was, so I kind of stayed away from all of that. um, but eventually kind of came around full circle. Basically, honestly, my journey really began when I bought a Volkswagen bus, and started going to Grateful Dead shows. And these hippies were like, "Hey, nice bus, hey, you want to smoke some weed?" But yeah, just came kind of natural. I was probably 18 or 19 years old, and that's pretty much when I got turned on to it. And shortly after that, basically, I really I met this guy who was really good friends with Jack Herrera, honestly, and that's really where the journey began, and that really changed my whole life, honestly. I mean, Jack Herrera was an amazing person. I used to visit with him quite frequently in his place in Venice Beach, California. I would go to some hemp rallies with him over time. He was definitely a pioneer in this industry. He really made me realize always the truth, and a lot of times it's very controlling and manipulative. And through his book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, I just really got on board, and I really have been fighting for this plant really for the last 32, 34 years. I really believe that this plant could really save humanity. Basically, there's so many benefits from this plant: the fiber, the food, the fuel, everything about it is been just it's amazing. As soon as I met with this, got right on board, and this was before California was a medical state, and I donated a lot of time and money and energy into helping California get their medical program going, which ended up happening. And ever since then, and then, you know, like I just, from there, I just kept fighting. I had friends here in Oregon. Jack Rare had some friends here in Oregon who were reclaiming old growth trees and shipping in hemp from Canada and trying to like make boards out of, you know, products to build homes out of cannabis. And it just really inspired me to want to be part of this industry. Of course, in those days, there wasn't a lot of money to be made in the hemp industry. So I was with a small circle of people, and we just did what we did. And I learned a lot about breeding genetics and just doing what I could to provide this plant for people. Shortly after some time, Oregon went medical, and that right away made me feel comfortable to come out with what I had been learning over the course of the last, I don't know, 15 years or so. And I think the medical program in Oregon was a great program. It was really, I wish it was in some aspects, I still wish it was like that. The medical program in Oregon in the beginning days was very, 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 very good. People were really making really good medicine. I had a whole line of products that I was able to legally sell in dispensaries. We had vegan edibles, topicals. I was breeding genetics for specific medicinal purposes, for sleep, for alertness, for appetite stimulant, for appetite suppressant, for arthritis, for psoriasis, for cancer patients. I put myself out there and was able to help facilitate a lot of people to grow their own. And that's really what I was really trying to do, is enabling people to have a little closet and allowing them to try a bunch of different genetics where they could find something that really worked for them, because this plant has so many medicinal different benefits. And one strain in particular is not going to be a strain that works for everybody. Me personally, I don't smoke the hazes. Makes my heart race, gives me too much energy. But I have some friends that works great for them. So really trying to dial in, you know, what works for people, and then having a nice array of products that can help medicinally for everybody. You know, I did that for the medical here for quite some time. At some point in my journey, I realized that it was gonna go a lot bigger than the medical program. And so I moved into a bigger outdoor arena. And in Humboldt, I worked in Humboldt for 6 years. And again, still really trying to grow medicinal medicine. And I think at some point when I saw that Oregon was going to go recreational, I decided to come back to Oregon. And so now this is going to be my 5th year now as a recreational farmer, or I've been since the very beginning here in Oregon, Southern Oregon, as a recreational farmer. And that has not been as fun of a journey once I went to recreational. Things really changed a lot in the recreational industry. And now I see what's going on with the hemp industry. And I mean, I don't know, oftentimes I think, like, if Jack Rare knew what was going on in the hemp industry, he'd be rolling over in his grave, because I feel like people in the hemp industry are really taking advantage of this plant and people in general. So, I mean, I'm going to stay true to what my beliefs are. I'm really hoping that at some point the hemp industry can really go into moving into the paper products and building products, fiber, food, things of that nature. But time will tell. We'll see. I mean, it's been a journey for sure. I fought for many. I've been on many federal building stairs fighting. I was there with Jack when he was giving talks at hemp festivals. I was there with him in Portland when he collapsed. And dear good friend of mine, and I miss him dearly. And he really was the inspiration for my whole journey, honestly.
And I'm
I don't know. That's
slightly envious of of your journey. I wish I would have known a little bit sooner. I would have reached out much sooner. Uh Man,
yeah.
that's what a you blew by, I believe, way too fast. We've got to rewind some here, but what an amazing
Yeah. I'm happy.
opportunity to be. I mean, Jack Herrera. I mean, if that man can't, bring you in and make you an advocate, I would think nobody can. But what a great experience to, if you're gonna many of us do take on this cannabis journey, boy, what a awesome foundation. What an awesome foundation to get from somebody like him. Uh yeah. But
Yeah, he was an amazing person.
tell
He
us a little bit
really believed
about
in the
some
fight.
of the times with him a little bit there.
Whew. I mean, he had a little spot up in Venice Beach, now down there in Venice. We used to have meetings there, and it was a big Knights of the Round Table, kind of big round table, and people would come all the time, and he was always revising his book. And there's a lot of revisions of that book, and that was good. There was always people making documentaries. I get to see a lot of small documentaries, some films. Just being able to travel with him and go to festivals. Days before California medical was legal, so there was constant meetings where there was these constant. The door was a revolving door. It was always people coming and going, and it was signing the petitions. It was going out and door knocking, Melrose, all over California, wherever we could go, down to Huntington Beach, Santa Monica. People with their clipboards just trying to get signatures, as many signatures as we can get, all up and down. I mean, honestly, at one point I had a 72 Volkswagen Bug that I donated. I gave it to Jack Herrera and said, here, take this Bug and they went all the way from California. They went down to San Diego. He was a great guy. He just really believed
shout out
in
to you
in
guys and a
plants.
big thank you for putting in that work, man. That's not easy work, man. Petitions, approaching people. Can I get your signature? Even to get them to hear you out, to start the conversation on why cannabis should be legal, can be very disheartening. So thank you,
Yeah,
firsthand for help getting the ball rolling, man. And California did get the ball rolling, so
yeah,
huge thing.
yeah. Yeah, it's a process. I mean, back in those days, I had family members and friends that just really ridiculed me and put me down for for this drug, you know, and it's definitely not that at all. It's more than it's medicine, and it's very important. It's a very important piece. I mean, there's a lot of quotes from that book that I like to quote from, and you know, it's like, honestly, without this plant, we wouldn't. Hey, if you didn't grow a quarter acre of hemp on your property, it was considered treason. And you know, and that was really important. I mean, that everybody grew a quarter acre of hemp and handed it over to the government so that we could hire the Dutch Armada to beat the British Armada. That's partially why Amsterdam and Holland never went illegal, because if it wasn't for them, we would have never be able to beat the British. And that's probably one of my most favorite and important parts of the book. Besides, you know, how it could be used to take out the chemical companies and the pharmaceutical companies. And he really stood behind that. And you know, there's just so much evidence, you know, that just shows how important this plant is. It's coming around. It's coming around. I think it's gonna still be some time.
Yeah.
I mean, the big push right now is
hopefully
to
it
hope
does.
that, you know, that the federal government support. Yeah. I mean, I'm as a
It can't come
recreational
quick
farmer
enough.
for a farmer. I'm clicking out. Yeah, no, I mean, the federal, I pay federal taxes on a plant, on a product that they, how ridiculous is that? I can't work with banks, and I can't do certain things because of what I do, but yet I still pay federal taxes. That part, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm in for the long haul. One of my passions is working with genetics. I really like working with the genetics, freezing pollen and breeding things and coming up with new things that work, you know, for people. Not necessarily trying to create the new hit, but everybody's looking for the new hit all the time. But more so, you know, again, I like to try to think that I'm a medicinal farmer more than anything. I'm not just here to I mean, yes, I got to make a living, but I really like I like working with the plant. I like breeding. I like creating a lot of the genetics that I run on my farm are things that I've bred that work for this environment.
So when did you actually take on the cultivation side of cannabis?
Let's see. I think that would be 91 or 92. Yeah. You know, back in the day in LA, you know, Mexican brickweed came with seeds. And I decided, well, what happens if you, of course, at the time I was living at home, and my parents found out about it. And luckily, my mom was really super cool. She said, you know, hey, this is an illegal plant. I could lose, you know, everyone hears the stories back in the early 90s of people losing properties and losing things. And so she said, you know, just have one in the backyard. So she allowed me to do that. And that was the beginning of my journey, pretty much. My first cultivation plant. Yeah. And then that didn't work out so well. And the one I kept ended up being a male. And then shortly after that, I moved out of home, and I just started trying more things and talking to people and seeing that worked. And the first real room I did, I got robbed, And then I moved out of that spot and got another spot. And then I would just do I switched over to hydro. So mostly my thing was a hydro thing. There was in LA, there was this little shop that I worked with, these two guys from Austria, and they're still there. And I think it's in Burbank. And one of the guys passed away, but the other guy still runs the spot. And the store is established in 1964, and they have and they're really the fourth. I mean, they're since 1964. NASA actually hired them to do their first hydro grow in space. And these guys would go to like schools and teach kids about hydroponics. And it was all, and they didn't do anything with cannabis. They were just hydro tomatoes and strawberries and lettuce. They had hydro towers, and they were like, show people that you could grow all the food you need in a very small space with hydroponics. And so that really inspired me. At this time in my life, I was working in the aquarium industry, and I started noticing people would come into the aquarium shops, because before, in those days, there was no hydro shops. There was no, well, there was that one hydro shop, but there was no grow stores per se. Like now you can just go in by, every town has a grow store, you know. So in those days, I was working in an aquarium shop, and I would notice people would come in and buy high pressure sodiums for growing plants and things in the aquariums. And these people would come in and buy lights, but no fish. And I was like, eventually I sort of figured it out. And that's when I pretty much went into hydro and figured that was just a really good way to go. I mean, between the shop and my background of the aquariums, I was able to come up with a pretty good hydro situation. And yeah, that's kind of where it started. I did that hydro for a long time. Organic hydro is not easy.
I didn't think there was even such a thing.
Yeah,
Is there? Obviously.
Yeah, you can grow hydro just straight teas. Yeah, you have to have the right filters. Right, right. Basically, like ebb and flow is the best. But yeah, it's possible. There's deep water culture, which I really like. Yeah, soil, not so much, but yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It seems like that would be just, it does it greatly depend on the water temperature? I mean, for a little bit of swing and things get out too far out of control too quickly. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, in the aquarium business, they have like for reef tanks and stuff, they have chillers. So if you run a chiller and you don't really like go anaerobic, if as long as you keep it aerated and keep it cool, it'll be good. It's possible. Not easy. Yeah.
So, I mean, how long did you stay in
Yeah,
that
outdoors
type
is a whole
of
different beast. I haven't
run
grown.
there before you switched up and are you in organics now? Did you go outdoors from organics indoors or hydro
Yeah, I
indoors to
do.
outdoor?
I went organic hydro. I went salt. I started with salt indoor hydro. Then I went organic hydro, and then I went to white a long time. From I guess I was pretty much hydro from like 92 till 90, so 2001 probably. Yeah. And then I went in 2001. I was 2002 or three is when I went to Humboldt, and that I got served. I had no idea. Um, I was not prepared for that. First year, I definitely got handed, but I learned a lot, and I've been at it doing the outdoor for a while. I did mostly I basically took like my organic hydro style growing to smart pots, and I that was good. And then when I moved back to Oregon to go rec, or I was medical for a couple years here in Oregon. One day I had a friend come over, and I was growing my 48 medical here in Oregon. And I had a friend come over, and he was like, "Why aren't you growing in this ground?" He like poked around in the ground, and he was like, "Why aren't you growing in this ground?" And I was like, "Well, I never really thought about it. I've always been in hydro pots and whatnot. I never really thought about it." So that the next year I tilled my field, and I had a seed breeding project. So I was like, "Oh, I'll just throw my 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 plants in the ground and see what happens." They rocked. It was phenomenal. And, I did some soil amending per se to get it going, but I still fed quite a bit. And the year after that, I got rid of all. That was my first year going. I had my rec license going. So then it's like not a plant count number anymore. It's just a square footage. So I was able to grow just under an acre. And so I just tilled my whole field, and I just started planting away, and it worked out pretty good. And after that, I realized I needed to start building my soil. So I started getting there's a local guy that gets a horse stable, horse manure. And so I just started layering my field. And over the first couple of years, just trying to build my soil as much as I can. I have a really good friend that inspired me. He's an amazing farmer in general. And if you ask him, and that he really turned me on to this idea of building the soil. And I've been trying to build the soil. I do cover crops. I do a lot of microbials. A lot of times I get mushrooms will be popping up along my water lines of my plants. I try to create a living soil as much as possible. Things have gotten a little bit tough in the rec market, so I've had to sometimes in the pinch go back to the real basic hydro mentality. And I'm not sure exactly where I feel like I'm going. I know there's a lot of people that do the no-till, people that do the Kugel or Kugel mounds. There's a lot of people that are building soil in a lot of different ways, natural Korean farming. I've dabbled in all of those things. But at the end of the day, I just, when the plants are screaming for more CalMag, I just got to give it to them. There's certain things when you've been doing it for long enough, you can see what they need, or sometimes. So yeah, I definitely trying to build the soil all the time.
Sounds like you've got a wide variety of experience, that's for sure. Tell me about the Hydro Smart Pot. I mean, are you basically talking like kind of almost like a SIPS A smart pot with sips in it? Is that kind of that's what I'm picturing.
No, I know it's basically what I meant to say. The thing about a smart pot or any even those like the arrow pots or any kind of pot basically is you can flush the heck out of it. So it's becomes more of kind of like a drain to waste kind of thing. So you can pump them like a hydro plant in a pot, basically. I mean, if you're in dirt, if you're like in a smart pot in dirt, you can pump that plant like a hydro plant. And then at the end of the day, you can prevent it from getting locked out because you can just flood it and flush it out. So you can pump. Where if you're doing ebb and flow or deep water culture, and you're just keeping your EC or your PPMs up super rocking hard, you get to that point where the plants just start getting, you can tell the tips get burnt or whatever. Then you can just flush it all out, give them a day of rest, and you can go back pumping them again. And it's kind of like, I felt like when I was growing smart pots, I kind of felt like I was kind of like a hydro farmer, kind of like that. Because in hydro, you can push them so much harder than you can in soil. You can, you can flush it out a lot easier. So yeah, you can change pH and ppms like so much quicker. Just you know. And then I just, yeah, I was doing like organic hydro basically in super concentrated batches of tea, and then diluting it to a high ppm and just flooding the plants with that.
Any burn? Can you from hitting them hard with the organics like that?
Not really. You definitely can, but not really. A little bit of a leeway there. I feel like the biggest thing to battle with organics is most organic compounds take so long to break down. So there's certain things, that's why I like to go with, if I'm going to run organics, I like to run it in tea form because it's a lot more available, instantly available. Um, Things like putting bone meal in your soil, putting like rock dust. I mean, that's good for the long term. It takes a long time to break down, you know. But if you can get it in a tea form, and with teas, it's pretty hard to burn, but you can burn them. I mean, you can. I mean, you can get a tea. You can feed a 1400 ppm tea, 1600. You can feed a 2200 ppm tea that won't burn. Um, Plants that might not be able to use it all, but they will definitely use what they can. And then yeah, you can. Then it's just easy. It's real easy to flush out. Um, Tea, brewing tea is amazing. I love it. It's really, you can spray it on your plants, you can feed them with it, everything.
So, as an organic hydro, did you notice the flavor difference from actually adding the soil to the mix, the rest of the puzzle?
Not so much, honestly. Not so much. I mean, the soil ends up becoming pretty much inert. So it's really in what you're feeding, honestly. A lot of that's even true when you're growing straight in the ground. If you're doing slurry, all the plants, the weeds and the plants, the cannabis, they eat it up and metabolize it. And I mean, it's like the Native Americans who would do, they would rotate their crops and they would give fields rest and, you know, things like that. It's because, it's, you have to be able to put stuff back. You can't just constantly take, and I feel like flooding my field with a tea, it works really good. And so like, yeah, and organic hydro or organic soil, you have to constantly be putting stuff into it. And I feel like the best thing is tea because it's a lot more ready available. In the beginning days of me doing hydro, I would do, fish and kelp and things like that, towards the end. And then, I don't know if you've ever experienced weed that like smells like fish, like if if you're not careful, you have to give it time to break down, or you have to be careful not to feed it too much in the end. Some of these organic compounds, they're not going to break down, or like you get a lot of calcium or magnesium or other minerals you end up with like herb that burns harsh. It doesn't. It the plant needs time for it to turn that to eat those simple sugars. If you're feeding it all these hard, heavy things that need time to break down, the plant will uptake that, and then it just sits in there. And when you cure it, it's just still sitting in there. It never had a chance to like break down. Again, why I like the tea, because it's already broke down. Plant can just use it. But I've definitely have had people that are hardcore organic soil farmers, and they're feeding all these amazing kelps and fishes and guanos, and you smoke it and it's like, wow, it's sort of tastes like shit. Like manure of some sort, and it burns like coal. It's black, it doesn't get white ash, just because there's compounds in there they just haven't had time to break down. So, but yeah, organics is good. I think there's a place for salts too. I'm not a purist. I do eat organic food, and I'm here in Cave Junction because we got clean air and clean water, and I can grow good food as well. So that's also part of something that I like to do. But there's certain things that I'm not afraid to use, as long as you're going to use it in time for it to break down. Certain boosters. Not a hater on any company or well, maybe Monsanto, but other than that, I mean, all these other people that are making grow products, there's a place for all of it. So, but at the end of the day, I'm all about organic tea.
I'm not there yet, but I'm sure I will be someday. I've been growing for quite some time, but man, I'm really to the point in my growth journey where I'm starting to really embrace the organic side of things again. And it's a deep rabbit hole, so I could see teas being part of the process at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just a basic tea with just a little guano and some earthworm castings. Bubble that stuff up in a 5-gallon bucket and just add it to whatever you're doing. It's life. I mean, it adds life. Even in the salt arena. Yeah. Which I'm not opposed to any which way. I mean, as long as people flush properly and get this medicine out to the people, I mean, or get it to themselves, whatever. It's important. So yeah, I'm super thankful that it came into my life.
What are some of the strains you've been blessed to grow throughout the career?
Oh my goodness. My all-time favorite strain, if I could ever find it again, was Super Skunk. That was back in 95, 96. Original NL number 5. Early Girl was a good one. Back in the day when you couldn't really find genetics. You know, it was like we used to have to find bag seed out of dead lot. You know, Grateful Dead shows, you buy a bag of weed and find a seed in there. That was like, you were lucky if you could find some of that, some super silver haze. You know, like I said, not my favorite, uh, um, but fun to grow. Goes a little long, but you know, I think one of my all-time from back in the day, I grew something from somewhere in Pakistan once from a friend that was like in the Army Corps, or I don't know, with the Peace Corps. This kid, friend of mine, came back from the Peace Corps from Pakistan. Beautiful pink. And then in '95, I moved to Eugene after Jerry died, and there was kind of no more hustle on the lot, no more shakedown. That kind of ended, and so a lot of us kind of just ended up in Eugene. And I had the pleasure of meeting this old hippie who introduced me to this circle of kids. And one of the kids there, he still to this day has like an incredible love for the plant. Like I have never seen, he's an amazing person with so much love for this plant. And like he taught me how to breed. I taught him how to do some hydro stuff, and he taught me how to do some breeding level for me. That was 95 and 96. A full basement with just like partitions. Just like the whole basement was a seed breeding project with just like all these crazy, awesome genetics. And to this day, a lot of the stuff that I've bred on my farm are like stuff that I get from him. I'll get a male from him and cross it with stuff that works in my field, and I will just whittle it down to things. He's cutting edge, still growing amazing stuff. But yeah, he really changed my life. He taught me how to freeze pollen, how to take the paintbrush, and how to like create seeds and do some of that genetic stuff, which is like really fun. I love that part. I don't get to do enough of that. But so I have like an old school original purple Hindu Kush that I crossed several different ways, and got it's a Bubba Kush cross, White Dog cross that I like to run. Comes in super early. It's a really good strain. That's one of my favorite. UK cheese that I crossed with Sour D. And then I crossed it back to the cheese. That one is a really good. It's an appetite stimulant. It's really good for chemo patients. That's one of my go-tos for people that need some appetite stimulant. I've been here in Eugene, which is a close town where I live at. There's a like a weekly that comes out, and I've been featured in that 6 times. Maybe there's not enough light. But I don't know if you guys, this strain that I have, it's called the Lucky, and I believe I'm the only one that has it. I met this old lady who needed some help growing some medicine. So I went to her house, and she had some plants growing in her backyard. I said, "Oh, wow, these plants look really nice. Can I have a cutting?" So I got a cutting off of two of the 4 she had. The story goes is her son was in Afghanistan and brought the seeds back for her because she needed medicine. So she out of the seeds and grew these 4, and I got a cut off of one of them, and I grew it here in my field. I grew 4 of them here in my field, and halfway into flower, I realized it was something really, really special. So I took cuttings of it and brought it back, and I've had that now for 7 years, coming on 7 years, and it's Herbal Ally's signature strain pretty much. Throughout Oregon, people look for the Lucky when it's available. It's always tests between 28 and 30%, no matter what company tests it. It's always a high tester. It's a really, really good body relaxer. It's just a really good strain in general. It's not super couch lock kind of a strain. I think the biggest thing that I like to say about it is that the duration on it. There's some weed, you smoke a joint of it and you're like, oh, ready to smoke another joint. Half hour later, hour later. This is like you smoke a joint of this in the morning, you can work all day, you still feel like elevated. It's just really long duration. And of course, in the rec market, people just look for the numbers. So it's a high tester. So it's a good one for me in the market. Original DJ Short Blueberry I've had for probably about 10 years. I've had the Lucky I got the original Sour D. I got secondhand from the guy who made it. I've had that Sour D for probably, probably the Sour D and the Lucky, probably two of my favorites for sativa and indica. Last year I actually had an unfortunate experience where my barn burned down and I lost pretty much. I had my genetics stashed somewhere else, so I was able to recover my genetics, but I wasn't able to create my season with my genetics. So I had to reach out to other farms to find other genetics. So I ran a bunch of different. The last 2 years I've run a lot of different genetics, and it's been interesting because normally I've been running genetics that are my genetics exclusively, and I know what to expect. So it was very interesting to get a bunch of someone else's genetics, to get, I don't know, probably 40 different varieties that I've never worked with before. And over the course of 2 years, I've started to whittle some of those down. So it's been pretty interesting. I like the Bruce Banner. I really like the old school cherry pie. There's a lot of different things. I'm still working through it. It's a never ending process. And that once I whittle down to the ones I want, then I'm gonna start breeding them, crossing them with things that I like. So
are you obviously in a situation now where numbers aren't necessarily a factor? More square footage?
Numbers aren't a factor now. It's all about square footage. Yeah. I'm not sure what state you're in or where you're here in Oregon.
Well, I'm here in Michigan, and unfortunately it's count. I only dream of something like square footage or something like Oklahoma, the unlimited plant count. For me, man, to be honest with you, it would be a tough road for me for like production or pheno hunt. Man, it'd be tough for me not to just pop, like 40. You said 40. Oh man, I think that would be a modest number. Numbers wouldn't be, or wouldn't be a thing. Man, I'd be trying to try everything under the sun.
Yeah. I get that. That's exactly how my friend is too. Every time I see him, he's like,
he's just always breeding and crossing things. And it's just popping seed. He has people that come to him and are like, here's a sack of seeds that I crossed. Here, find the good one for me, and he can't help himself. He's constantly popping seeds. And I've learned to be modest, like I try every year. I definitely pop seeds, and every year I breed something. Every year I pick out a male somewhere and do breeding. But I'm also, trying to survive, and I'm trying to make a living, so it's hard to dedicate a big spot to pheno hunt. I have a lot of respect for those people, because but when you're talking about an acre, it's, and the system, it's a tricky, it's a tricky system. It's the OLCC. That's a whole, that's a whole different ball of wax. You're dealing with bureaucracy, and we're every single plant I have in the field is tagged with a 40-cent tag. You can fly over, or you can walk down a little contraption and beep it and see what all the plants are, and it's all transparent in the it's pros and cons. At the end of the day, I've been in the back alley, so it's nice to just be out in the open. But it's when you're in this competitive marketplace. I mean, Oregon is over licensed. There's so many, only 400, 500, and some of these growers are growing, incredible amount. You can grow, 5,000 pounds in an acre. Some of these guys, some of these big guys have 8, 10, 12 farms. That's a lot of product. So I try to narrow it down. I try to I pheno hunt every year. Like right now I have 12 different varieties right now that I'm running this year, that I'm trying to see what I'm going to be able to pull out of it. What's going to do best. And my first test usually almost always, can it go full season without getting moldy here in Oregon? So something that's going to come in early. DJ Shore Blueberry's been with me for a while, because it can go all the way until November and it won't mold. It's Thai genetic. It's used to dealing with all of that extra moisture, and so that's a good one for me. The Hindus come in early. The Lucky comes in early. There's a lot of things that come in early. That's makes it. So that's kind of like the first criteria. Like, I need to get to the finish line first. The first criteria is to get to the finish line, and then from there it goes down to certain other criterias. How does it test? How does it grow? How does it there's certain things I've had in the past where I used to do a lot of hand trimming, and I still do hand touching now, but at some point in the game I had to switch to machines, machine trimming. And people say, oh, machines are terrible, you lose all your crystals, but my tests still come out good. They're still the same whether I hand touch it or whether I hand trim it. So my margins are a lot smaller when you go rec. It's not the same. So certain things have to machine, and I've gone through a lot of different ones, and I feel like on a production level, when you're getting 2
2,000, 3,000 pounds. It's you have to be able to deal with that in a very efficient, cost-effective way. And there's a lot of things with recreational that kind of hurt. You know, it's not. When in the early days when I was doing hydro, we would wet trim everything. I mean, it was wet trim everything. You just chop it and trim it, hang it. At the end of the day, you buck it and it's ready to go. Like, there's nothing better for me than to have a wet trim, honestly. If you got the good people and if you have the time, you know, wet trimming is the best. Then you freeze that leftover trim and you get the best bubble hash. Oh my God.
I completely agree.
But on a production level, you know, and I mean, there's a lot of different level. I mean, once you get on a production level, there's a lot of different. You got to learn to trim out certain things and, you know, make the best of it. And I'm still trying to just bring the best medicine I can with what I've got. I know there's just a lot of people out here that are just, yeah, they're just all about profit. And I like to think that I'm able, when most of my employees that come here to work on the farm are always amazing and just like good vibes, put the good love into the plant. You know, they're not just here to get a paycheck. They're here because they love the plant. And that's really important to me. Yeah.
So, how difficult was it going back to Oregon? Was the caregiver and the medical system still somewhat intact when you went back over there? Because no offense, but man, it seemed like Oregon was the first one to show us how a medical scene can go wrong. To be honest with you, it seems like they were the ones to really crack down and want to take it away and kind of shake it up a little bit there in Oregon.
At the transition to going from medical to recreational, yeah, they messed it up. Yeah, the medical program should have never left. It should have been the forefront. It's medicine. It should be a medical program. You know, the recreation thing was all about greed, and I mean, that's my feeling on it. There were so many in the medical days. There was so many good products. There were so many like conscious people. There was so much like, it was just good. I mean, it was good. Medical was good. I missed the medical, honestly. If it would have just stayed like medical, that would have just been the best. You know, the idea was that it was going to go wreck and that the feds would get, you know, and the feds would get their cut. Well, the feds are getting their cut, but it's not really, I don't know how to say it really. Like, medical was the best. Honestly, I missed the medical. I mean, I don't know what else to say about the medical. Oregon messed up. That's how I feel about it. Yeah. I think Oregon messed
right
up. I
there
think
with
Montana messed up. Yeah. Montana really messed up.
Well, I the one that's like the perfect example of kind of what I'm worried about it when it goes national. When it does go federal, I'm worried that it will be recreational and it'll be just kind of same, you know, instead of like a decriminalization type thing or it descheduled. I'd almost rather see either one of those, but it seems every time when they make it wreck, man, that's when everything kind of goes south. Uh, I'm right there with you. I've always been preaching the medical side too. I wish it would have swept the country medical way before the thought
Yeah.
of recreational ever did. Because I'm
Right.
very public with saying I'm afraid if once it does go legal, funding and interest in the medical side will kind of dwindle because of it. Yeah, that's very
Right.
good.
I don't know. I mean, and I'm is that there will always be like boutique, like the boutique stuff, but also like the medical stuff. I mean, that's the hopes, you know.
I would I would think that's got to be a must too. I mean, the same thing happened with alcohol and beer, right? I mean, they tried to narrow it down to, the few, and there's always been the taste for that
Right.
craft beer. I mean, look what happened when they reintroduced the craft market. Everybody was like, Budweiser, what? I'm not
Yeah.
even a drinker, and I seen that happen. So I don't know. I think
Right.
the craft market will always have a place, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think the people that are really, into the medicinal properties of it are going to be able to still keep that going. Um, you know, I don't know. I was really super disappointed when I think the hemp program really, really destroyed. Um, I don't know. I don't know how to say it, like the integrity of the industry, or I don't know. I mean, all of a sudden, like the the medical program stopped, and then the recreational started, and then shortly after that, the hemp started, and the hemp all of a sudden became the medicine. And like I don't really believe in that. I don't believe fully in TH or CBD like as a medicine. Like it really, like here on my recreational farm, I do have some medicinal strains that are CBD, but I like the 1-2s and the 1-1s. Frank's Gift, some Pennywise, things. I think the 1-1s are like the 6% CBD and or like 6% THC, 12% CBD. Like that's good medicine. That's really good medicine for people. You're still gonna get a little high, but you don't want to get high, but because you need. But I think and I also believe it's a whole plant. That's the whole plant is really what's important. You have these people who are doing distillates and they're just fractioning off these different components. But I believe the best medicine is the whole plant. You take, I mean, not necessarily the water leaves and the stems, a room of plants, and he chops the plants down after like they grow for almost about 2.5 years. He never flowers them. And all he does is harvest the leaves and juices them and makes ice cubes. And he just provides for himself and for a very small circle of people. And that has helped people gain motor skills. It has helped people with all kinds of different conditions. And it's a whole plant. He takes the whole plant. Chops the whole plant, like tops them, juices it, makes ice cubes, and that's what's up. Like that's he doesn't even grow flower, and still the plant is medicine.
Pretty
He,
awesome.
he says if he does like he gets super high, and that's not even a flowering plant. So yeah, I mean CBD, I don't know. And now everyone has all these hemp licenses here, and I'm surrounded by I mean, I don't even know if I want to get into this part of the conversation, honestly, but like the property values went super high, and the only people that are buying these properties are foreigners, basically, cartels, and they have these hemp licenses, but no one's really growing hemp. You have a 40 acre, 120 acre farm of pasture, and just say, like, why would you do hemp plants? Because they're not hemp plants.
I think you have the answer
So
there. Uh,
yeah.
so I think you're right though about the hemp thing and the CBD. Um, I'm right there with you about the CBD. CBD is a good part of the equation, but it isn't the whole equation. Doesn't like to stay in the body long enough by itself. It's kind of a constant intake without the THC, which kind of retains it in the body and provides the yin and yang that it needs. And
Right.
and at the rate that they were trying to produce it just in the name of
Yeah.
CBD was crazy. I mean, right now you can get CBD oil shipped in from, all across the world. You know what I mean? To think that we needed to, throw that much hemp
Yeah.
flower down
Yeah.
just for our CBD needs was crazy. I'm right there with you. There's so many other needs. We were talking the other night about different uses of cannabis, and Captain 420, who's in chat now, suggested in plywood, especially like right now, and when the wood prices are crazy. A hemp
Yeah.
plywood would
Yeah.
be amazing. You know, I don't.
Yeah.
So,
that's
do you
my
think it's?
friend.
My question was going to be: do you think it's like lack of
So they had these.
usage? But
They were importing. I was part of this. And dollars, honestly. Yeah, the hemp industry, they should not be growing hemp for flour. But honestly, hemp should not be grown for consumption products. Like, I don't believe it. Okay, so my friend Jack Herrera had another friend, Condi. Condi, this is in 96, 7. He's in Oregon. He owns a redwood reclamation lumber yard. So like when they break down barns, or if there's old logs somewhere, they would bring the old redwoods, and he would like reclaim. Old hippie guy, friend of Jack's, reclaiming all this stuff, right? Well, he happened to have a property that was right on the railroad lines. So Jack Hood products. So this, I'm sure you can find this somewhere. This is for real. At this time in Canada, they're growing hemp. And I'm not sure why in Canada they were growing hemp, but they were growing hemp. So they were able to order. They would bring the hemp fiber down to the redwood barn, basically, where they were like turning it into hemp board there on the property, and they would take it to so he would get his old redwood and he'd take it to the mill, and there's
there's not very many mills anymore that do red or trees. There's only a few now, but back then there was a couple others. He was with a mill in Willamette Valley somewhere that could do like old growth stuff. So they were making this hemp board, and they would take it to this mill. They're like, hey, we want to cut this into, make it into plywood. They were burning through the saw blades so fast. The mill said, no, we can't do this anymore. It's costing us too much money in blades because this fiber is so strong. This board is so strong. And this guy, Condi, his name is Condi. And they're also trying to make hempcrete there. So they're making also like hemp concrete, like cinder blocks. So they're making board and blocks. They're trying to build a house out of hemp, basically, is what the end goal was, pretty much. He was throwing festivals there, hemp festivals on his property. So many great speakers coming in, people making all kinds of stuff out of hemp. Well, the feds came to him one day and said, you got to go. They're like, if you don't leave the country, if you don't, So now he lives in Belize. And yeah, I haven't seen that guy in a long time. He's good. He was a friend. And now Jack's not around anymore. Captain Ed's not around anymore. All these pioneers, they're just not really here anymore. But they were the pioneers. They were really fighting to make all this stuff. I mean, a lot of people don't know that Henry Ford made a car completely, almost pretty much out of hemp. It's in the Smithsonian Museum. Like all the dashboard, it's all made out of composites, out of resins made, like pretty much resins made from extraction, and fiber and resin made from the plant. If there wasn't anything that wasn't metal was made out of hemp. The engine ran on hemp fuel. The government shut Henry Ford down, and he went into like depression for like a couple of years. But that car exists, and there's a lot of stories like that where these people are really trying to make products to change the world, to be, so that we can be self-sufficient. There's no reason we need to live on oil and all these other things. But yes, the idea is there's another guy around. I can't remember his name in the moment, but there's another guy who has made a bunch of products off of hemp, toilet paper, diapers, tampons. Pretty much everything can be made from this plant, and that's what the hemp farmers should be doing. I can't believe that they have CBD hemp farmers growing outdoors here where this is the best climate to grow flower, medicinal THC flower. Anywhere in the Midwest you can grow hemp, and it's disgusting that they would rather grow GMO corn and then throw it in the ocean and subsidize the farmer for that crop. When they could be growing hemp, that could be, I don't know. The Emperor Wears No Clothes. It's a great book. Everyone should read it. It should be in every school in America.
Even to take out like the CBD oil out of the equation, I never really understood how they thought the demand for a fine manicured hemp flower was going to be that great. I consider that I'd like to see a hemp flower be a good alternative for, like, say, a tobacco product, but I don't see a huge market as far as just outright smokable flower either. And I seen, you know, a lot of farmers think that there was going to be a market for well groomed cannabis flower or hemp flower. Your thoughts on that? Will there ever be a market for
Yeah,
well groomed hemp flower?
I hope not. Yeah, I hope not. I mean, if it's a substitute for tobacco, yes, that's a good thing. The tobacco industry is definitely an evil industry. I believe it's. I mean, most of it's smokers, so I don't get it. But I do have a lot of friends that smoke tobacco, and it is what it is. If hemp could be a remedy to help, take that place, that'd be great. But ultimately, I don't really feel like the hemp plant is not for consumption. I mean, unless you're using it, I don't know. I don't know, honestly, how I feel about it. Like, I think hemp is a good thing. Eating hemp seed, I believe it. I really believe in hemp seed. I have a friend in Kentucky actually who's making hemp proteins. He's doing what the name of his thing is. I don't know, I'd love to give him a shout out right now. But he linked up with the Kentucky University, and he's making, how they make like veggie dogs out of vegetable protein, or you make fake meats and things, products, edible, foods out of these vegetable proteins. Well, he's making vegetable protein products out of hemp. Like, that's worthwhile. That's totally worthwhile. Like, it should be consumed for sure. It should be used appropriately to replace some of these chemical products that just don't break down and just are toxic to our environment and to our health. Yeah, this guy's is an innovator in this hemp protein. I don't know if I can pull him up on this, but yeah, I'm not sure I can do that right now. But yeah, anyways, the whole hemp thing is just like I said again. I mean, if rolling over in his grave, because this is not the fight he fought for his whole life. For as long as I knew him, the fight was definitely not about smokable hemp flower. Hemp was to be able to free us from the corporate world, from trying to make a profit off of toxic things. Well, when people used to consume hemp products, they were much more healthier. You feed you grow grow some hemp plants, you make some clothes out of it, all the leftovers you feed to your cows, then you milk your cows, that comes through the cows, and that's medicine. So
Same way that the other shit comes through the cows that they feed it. That
yeah,
just
yeah. What's coming through now? What's coming through now? Hormones. You got these little girls coming to womanhood like way earlier because these chemicals in the food, because the hormones and all this stuff. I mean, it's just it can't, it's not sustainable. It's not going to last forever. The idea is that, you know, that we can use this plant to make, and that's kind of my foundation. Pays my bills, but at the end of the day, it's all about helping people.
I think that plant demands that of us, that we help, or you know what I mean. It just calls us together in the helping aspect of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super thankful that you reached out to me. I really don't get an opportunity very much to talk about my journey or my beliefs or how really how important this plant is to me. It's my world, honestly. Like I said, I was pretty straight edge until I got turned on, and once I got turned on, I want to do everything I can do to keep this fight alive. It's still a fight. We're still fighting. We're still fighting. Hopefully we don't have to fight forever, but it is definitely a fight. Even if the feds do get on board, I mean, I feel like it's still gonna be a fight.
I honestly, like I'm kind of hinted to a little earlier, I think the biggest fight's ahead of us, to be honest with you. I really believe that we've got a taste of what we've always wanted, but I have a terrible, terrible feeling that the fight to keep us growing is just starting. To be honest with you, and I hope I'm wrong. That's
And
one
why
thing I want to
so?
be
Would
more
that be
wrong
because
about.
do you think that's do you think that do you think that fight's going to be more against the government or more against the corporations, people like Marlboro and Budweiser, and like what's going to be the difficult part of it? I mean, the feds get on board.
To be honest with you, I'm both
Both.
ways.
Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid of the money side of it. I honestly think that pharma is backing legalization more than anything. I think they're really the ones that want to see recreational legal so they can back the heat off the pharmaceutical side, keep pushing us poisons. And then once they've established themselves in the recreational market with their own money, playing betting on both sides, then they can lobby to uh, have it take the home growers completely taken away from us, and then they've got a win-win-win. You know what I mean? No longer are we fighting for the medical side of it. No longer can we grow for medically for ourselves, and then they have us hooked recreationally. And then if you're still dependent on the medical side, well, guess what? Get your wallet back out. It's either your choice of your expensive cannabis or your cheap poison. Um, so I'm afraid of the money side on that aspect of it. And then as far as legalization goes, cross country and rec, I'm afraid of the feds and the aspect of they're gonna want to come in and reestablish themselves as the controlling factor. So I'm honestly afraid
you
of
know, the
if
Fed.
it goes cross country legally, they might even, yeah, I mean, that's still a risk that we all take. I mean, all of us all across the board, from the little grower to the big commercial
Yeah.
guy, is the recreational could go, feds could come and go, okay, we're still legal. None of your license count. You have to play by our rules now. You have to basically start over. get your wallets out and come again.
I never
That's what
thought
they-
about that. I mean, I never thought about that. I never looked at it like from that angle. But that's a very good point. I mean, it's possible. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, they want to have their hands in everything, and they want their cut. So I mean that's kind of why I went recreational, because I know at the end of the day, it's like, I'm initially it was like, oh, the golden ticket, but then after the first year, after the fucking first couple of years, you're like, oh, wait a second, maybe it's not a golden ticket, maybe it's a trap. Like, then what? So I mean, but I think at the end of the day, they're gonna have to give in. I mean, they're gonna always want their cut, and how houses live in. They try to shut down all the rec farming and just turn it all into a hemp county, and all the rec farmers had to like fight because they were trying to shut us all down. I was in a lawsuit with like 30 other rec farmers. We all got together, banded together to fight the county to say, look, the state already set this program up. We got our licenses and we're doing this already. You can't take it away from us. And they were trying to take it away from like 30 of us or more. Honestly, like not everybody was in the group, but they were trying to take it away from all of us. And that was just like at the county level. The state already said we can do it, and then basically our attorney had to fight and say, look, it says in the Constitution of America that you can't, if you have rights on your property, you can't just take those away unless you can compensate. And so then there was like, all right, well, compensate me $2 million. We have 30 people that want $2 million or $1 million. The state county's like, oh, we don't have that kind of money. So, okay, well, I guess we'll let you just continue doing what you're doing. But we're going to inspect you every year and charge you money, And so that's the county I live in. Every year I get a letter in the mail. And then within a couple of weeks, they come, they inspect everything. They make sure that all my permits, I got my every shipping container has to have a permit. I have water rights. They like check everything. They're just, I don't know why they're either trying to shut it down or they're trying to just like make money. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. We're not harming anybody. We got water rights. We got property. We're growing a plant that has to be tested to make sure that there's no chemicals. We're growing good herb here. Like, why? Yet if I drive down the street and drive all around, I see all these giant hemp farmers who knows what kind of chemicals they're using, because they don't have to be tested. It's just only thing they get tested for is to make sure that they don't have THC in their CBD hemp, and that just doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense to me at all. And now, in the first year, hemp's been 3 years now. The first year of hemp, everybody just came from all over the place and just was going to grow hemp, and they were going to make all this CBD smokable flower and get rich. Well, nobody knew what they were doing because they're not growers. And it was a bad year. So everything went to mold. Like I saw 30, 40 acres of hemp just still in the field in December, just molded and browned out, like all around, everywhere. They lost big time. And the second year they came in, well, they just did little patches of autoflowers everywhere, THC autoflowers. But autoflower sucks and nobody wanted that. So it just like flooded the market with cheap. And then they had their full harvest of CBD, and that still was crap. So this is the third year now, and now it's just nobody's growing hemp at all. It's like all these hemp farmers, they have like
acres and acres and acres of greenhouses. You can Google it online. Josephine County, Josephine County. I don't know exactly. I can't remember what it. If you look at Josephine County, like if they posted something on there, and it's like a little mini documentation documentary, and it's like the helicopter flying over Josephine County, and you'd be surprised. You'll see just like acres and acres and acres of greenhouses. They're like 50 by hundreds, 50 by 200s, and they're just sucking all the water out of the rivers. They're just dumping tons of chemicals on those things. It's just, they're destroying they're destroying the hemp, so-called hemp. Now it's turned into illegal weed growing, and it's just destroying the environment, which hemp was meant to be to save the environment. Josephine County and Jackson County, they both have these videos on Utah County and stuff. I was at the gas station the other day, and these guys were filling up the dump truck in the back of their truck with 633 gallons of diesel, $633 worth of diesel. And I said to the kid, what's going on here with these guys? Like, wow, that's a lot of diesel. He said, yeah, these guys come here twice a day, every day. It's like $1,300 worth of diesel every day. Just running these giant generators, running lights, sucking the water out of the ground, out of the river. The water's already low. We're already in a drought. It's just this hemp thing is like so anti-sustainable.
You know, that it's kind of made me wonder about, counterproductive end of it all. Will it be counterproductive when they do trick a lot of farmers into, planting miles and miles of hemp? Will it be counterproductive for, them to be like salt in the fields? Or, you know what I mean? I actually can see them just is doing what they're doing now, but bad. You know what I mean? Just trying to push it just as fast as they can. Miracle growing that shit in the fields, and I don't know. You think that's a possibility as well?
Yeah, definitely. No one in my county right now is growing hemp. I'll tell you that right now. And they all set up greenhouses, and just it's acres and acres and acres and acres, and there's no one's growing a single freaking hemp plant. My friend went and saw one. It's all nice. Runs, ice cream cake, wedding cake, gelatos, like acres and acres, acres. It's insane.
Well, I guess you brought up a good point there. I'm curious. So, what is to say that, I'm a hemp farmer, okay? Oh, I bought I planted, wink wink, all these hemp seeds, and they turned out to be over, you know what I mean? Over the limit,
Yeah.
rats.
So they
You know
just
what I mean?
chop. Right. Yeah. So they
What's
just
the
chop it
penalty?
and that's done. But that guy doesn't have just that. Nothing. There's no penalty. It's hot hemp. They just got to destroy it. That's exactly what's happening right now. And those guys bought. You lose 40 acres here. It's all right. You got another 40-acre spots. Oh, what? I got a hemp license. I bought these seeds from somebody. Oh, they tested hemp hot. Oh, guess you have to destroy them. No penalty, nothing. So they're just like, it's wild right now. Super wild.
Seemed like that'd have a huge
acres and
dent in the market prices.
acres. Oh, just wait. People have no idea what's about to go down. Yeah. Just driving around my neighborhood alone. Cartels, Ukrainians, Bulgarians. It's like, yeah. I mean, good for them. Whatever. I'm just doing my thing. I got a rec license and I'm just hanging on. I mean, I don't know what I'm hoping for. Is my hopes that, someone will come in and clean up the whole thing and then then things will change, or do I hope that the borders will open up and I can export? I don't know. I mean, all I know is I'm legal, so I don't have to worry. But is it sustainable, and can I survive through, selling $300 rec pounds of fire? I don't know.
That sounds very disheartening and tough. I was,
Yeah.
man, when it came, we had a scare here in Michigan about 5 years ago, like the first year where everybody could outdoor grow pretty much. We and the caregivers could still deal with provisioning centers. You know, we went from $200 to $300 ounces to the provisioning centers, you know what I mean, as caregivers, wholesale, I guess, to all that outdoor coming in and the market going all the way down to like $80 for good fire ounces. I got to the point where I was like, I'll sit on it. I'll sit on it. I'll go home.
Yeah.
I'll smoke it myself. I can't do it for that. To hear like 300 a pound. Holy shit. That doesn't even seem worth the labor of love.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is a labor of love at that point. Flat out.
Yeah. At that point, it is, yeah. No, you go to Portland. If you go to the big cities like Portland here in Oregon, you can find like $40 ounces, $60 ounces. That's like insane, but it's nice. You know, I've been in the game enough to know, and that's okay. I mean, I'm trying to create a business model that is sustainable for my position, for my place, for who I am. I want to be here doing this for all my life. So if I can put together a business model that allows me to sell cheaper pounds but still provide good medicine, that's the key for me. Because there's a lot of people out there selling cheap pounds that's just garbage. I'm still trying to, no matter how bad the struggle is or whatever it is, like at the end of the day, I really am, my goal is to provide medicine to the people. That's my hashtag often in my Instagram, is medicine for the people. I try to grow really clean, good medicine that a few different varieties that can cater to the masses. And a lot of times when I drive down the street and see these other farms, or I go to dispensaries, or I try to make sales, or whatever it is, at the end of the day, I have to just put my blinders on and just do what I love to do. And that's all I can do. I mean, I'm one to have this kind of open conversation. Maybe somebody out there it'll spark something in somebody out there, and we'll be able to keep making progress in this industry and the bigger picture of trying to heal people, the planet, the ant, all of it. Like, there's, again, this plant has just so many
benefits. And I don't know what else I'd do at this point. So I like to be able, hopefully all the borders will open up. Hopefully you'll be able to see some Herbal Alley up in Michigan at some point at a dispensary, you know? I mean, there's always going to be room for boutique indoor people, you know? I mean, people always, people would rather get something from a friend than go to a store. So, you know, if you're surrounded, if you have a good circle of people, you're going to be able to, there'll always be room for people, you know.
Well, I hope that people do keep doing the breeding and whatnot. But you know, I heard you say earlier on, people are always wanting what's popular. I must be the introvert or the misfit in me. I don't want what's popular. I almost go out of my way to like pop things that nobody's got because like the strain Lucky you got there, you know what I mean? Nobody else has got it, and when people see it, they snatch it. I want the cannabis
Yeah.
I'm smoking to be just as notable as my personality, basically. So when they
Yeah.
see me, you know, as they do you, oh, man, I hope he brought some of that Lucky with him. You know what I mean? That's something
Yeah.
else everybody ain't got. That's you know, fine cannabis to me, not the populars.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of back to what I said before, not every, it's not necessarily about the name or the hype or any of that stuff. It's more about what works for you. You know, like, you know, some people put dairy in their coffee. Some people put oat milk in their coffee. Is that does that benefit you in some way? I want to just provide something that benefits people and that works. You know, I want to, you know, that works for them. You know, I don't know all the answers, and I don't have all the cures, and I don't have all that stuff. But at the end of the day, if I have a little something that makes someone's life a little bit easier, it doesn't matter the name, doesn't matter the strain. If it works, it works. So, and I'm just super thankful, able to contribute to people's well-being, you know, and that means a lot to me. Hopefully I can keep doing this and keep providing and making things you know, finding things that work for people. So a dear friend of mine, after smoking my sour diesel for 6 years, rid of all her allergies. You know, she super allergic to cats and dogs, deathly allergic. She would just coat her lungs with sour diesel and got less and less and less and less. Just at some point, it allowed her to be around cats and dogs. And maybe that was it. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe there's other benefits. So I'm gonna keep fighting the fight. I'm gonna just keep doing what I can. That's all I know. Yeah.
I appreciate your passion, man. I appreciate your passion, man. Do you think that the breeding side
I
of things
appreciate
will
it.
ever take the forefront?
I don't think so, honestly, because there's so many breeders out there, and I feel like the breeding isn't really. I mean, people at the end of the day would rather go buy some herb than try to buy. Like the breeding is a good
is definitely good because it definitely brings new things to the table. But as far as like breeding for a living, I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, there's definitely seed companies out there that have done well for themselves.
That's for sure. You know, my buddy Subcool would always tell me as far as the breeding side of things and money. Uh, I mean, and you've produced seeds yourself. I mean, he'd go, all right, how much money you think you're gonna
Right?
make off that one plant? You know what I mean? You go, I think about that much. And he'd go, how many seeds do you think you could make with that same plant? He's like, you could hold, you know, a whole lot more money in your hand and be able to travel with
Yeah.
versus try to move the flower pot. So there's definitely a market there as far as seed goes. I don't know if it'll ever, if it will sustain. I'm sorry, go ahead. I missed you.
No, go ahead.
I don't know if seeds would at the rate that breeders are throwing seeds out there. I don't know if they'll be able to sustain the prices that that are current because you know supply and demand. You flood the market, it seems like prices will have to come down. But it's still, I would think, a necessary piece of the puzzle. I mean, somebody's going to have to supply the thousands of seeds for these farms and whatnot. I think it would be even if you hooked up with a you know a good sized farm and they just grew your gear. I mean, just supplied the tens of thousands of seeds that they need. Would keep somebody busy and keep a roof over their head. I would think. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard you kind of
Yeah.
mention the
Breeding is
autos
fun
there.
for me on a small scale.
Sorry about the delay there.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
What are your thoughts on the autos there?
Oh, I'm not sure. Autos? I don't know. I mean, autos are I think are good for personal. I don't know. On a large scale, I'm not really into autos for a large scale. I mean, auto flowers usually test really low. And unfortunately, even though it's good medicine and it might taste good, and yeah, in the legal market, in the rec market, there's no real room for auto flowers because they just test too low. I don't know. I think my thoughts really on the autoflowers. My hiccup on the autoflowers is basically when all the hemp farmers failed. The next year they needed to get in something quick and make some money on THC, so they threw in a bunch of autoflowers, and that just I think put a big hiccup in the marketplace in general because a lot of that was hemp because it was hot. I don't know. I think the autoflowers are definitely fading away. I think it was a little. I guess we'll wait and see. What are your thoughts on the autoflowers?
I think they'll be good for an extract market to mass produce cannabis for extracts. I think they'll find a place in regional markets I've just talked about like utilizing them in like say the tornado belt in the the bread basket there, you know, trying to utilize crops around that, and say other places, Florida during their hurricane seasons. I never really even thought about them as like an emergency tool until you kind of brought it up there. I mean, someplace like in California, there, you get a bad season or a bad storm that messes up your crop. They would be nice to have, in the medicine cabinet. If something bad happens, they could just do a quick till and throw the autos down and still be able to recoup something, a partial season. Uh, I think would be a good use too for any farm to have. Keep a emergency sack of autos in the emergency case there. I think that would be a good idea, to be honest with you. Uh, Maybe for
Yeah.
the older growers, mom and grandpa and grandma. I'm not a fan, to be honest with you. I'd rather put my money into something I can take cuts in from and keep the rest of my life versus having to pay every time I want to plant. I guess I'm really cheap like that.
Yeah. No, there's definitely a place for autoflower. Um, I definitely believe there is a place for it. Um, but not for me.
So do you veg a lot of your
There's a
plants
definitely
indoors there? And then take them out? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, and is usually indoor. I got one house, just the nursery. So I do everything indoor, and then I got that nursery has a shade cloth on it, and I just take everything out there and I plant everything from clone into like a 3-incher, and just throw it out in the nursery, and then from there just into the hoops.
I hope to venture outdoors sometime. I've had a few, couple grill glows, couple of grows like I'm currently going out there, but I don't necessarily consider that to be an outdoor. More or less as a tool in the toolbox, if you will. Uh, because Michigan here, we every household is allotted 12 plants rec, and they can't be mixed in with my medical plants. And the numbers there are disgusting to what I'm allotted with for me and my patients versus uh, a recreational garden outdoors is crazy. Whatever I can produce with the recreational garden, I'm allotted to have, but I'm limited tightly by numbers. Uh, what I can have for me and my patients. I think that's a little crazy. But so as far as outdoor goes here, I kind of throw some out. Like right
So
now, I've got a few out there re-vegging that I'll take clones off of at some point, but I wouldn't consider that like an outdoor grow. Whatever happens, happens with them plants as long as I get my cuts. I kind of figure.
yeah, right. All about the yeah, for sure. That's where I'm at right now, because right now it's full season is coming on, and so I'm taking cuts off of everything to make sure I get hold on to my genetics. So in Michigan, you have rec and medical, but for rec, you you can't grow rec for other people like you can for medical. So for rec, you can how many plants can you out in your backyard? Like if
So
you're just a person and you're doing rec, I mean, if you can just here in Oregon, you can grow 4 plants without a medical license.
Well, here in Michigan, your household can have 12. So whatever the recreational, say if you can produce fucking 60 pounds from that recreational 12, hey, put it in your closet. That's yours. You can smoke it all until next season. But as far as like the medical side, I'm allotted 12 plants per patient, 5 patients besides myself, for a total of 72 plants. At any one time, I'm only allowed to have on hand 2.5 ounces per patient, and that's it. Medicine. But call it recreational. Well, fucking have a party.
So they catch 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here in Oregon, recreational, you can only grow 4 plants on the property. Unless you have a license, then you can grow whatever your license says you can grow. My license says I can grow almost nature. But if I didn't have a license, like everybody in Oregon can grow 4 plants.
I think everybody here in Michigan last year did, or smoking or not, I think everybody did, to be honest with you, because everybody's grandpa, grandma, uncle, aunt, I think somebody had approached them and went, "Hey, just can I put these in your backyard? I'll do all the work." So last year was a pretty big year in cannabis for Michigan. I'm pretty sure it probably will be this year as well.
I think everywhere this year is going to be pretty big. We'll see. I guess time will tell.
I love it though, man. I'm so grateful for these days. I never thought we'd be here. I never thought we'd be here in this situation. You know, medically, recreational, and just be able to sit here and do this. You know what I mean? Live on YouTube, be able to smoke, talk about cannabis. What a blessing.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Just kind of feeling you out a little bit here. How are we doing? I mean, we're good hour and a half in easy, and we haven't even got to talk about technique. We got time to talk a little technique, or how we doing on time?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do a little like question, I'm not really good at. I like question and answers. Anything that's on your mind that you're curious about and you want to ask me about? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what more I can say about myself. I think you and the audience may have got the gist of what I'm about and why I'm here right now. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that have questions out there. You included, so I'm happy to answer questions. But
so, can you give us some tips for training throughout veg to get ready for a good production or a heavy grow or a heavy yielding grow?
what do you mean training?
Yeah, I mean, do you do a lot of topping? Do you like to let
it's
the plant come up
different
natural?
for my situation because it's not enough I mean, it's a little bit different for me because I'm in recreational. So I'm dealing with square footage. So like August 1st, and so that's a lot different than planting in June 1st, which is a lot different than planting first. So when you plant, I don't like to talk. I have a couple helpers, and I'm running an acre, so I don't have a lot of resources. I don't have a lot. I got to so that I can do most of it myself on a dime, basically. And to do all the big plants, yes, I have grown 10-pound plants, 12-pound plants. Like I've grown monster blue dreams and other things, but the amount of work and time it takes to put in and the labor into that, when you're talking about square footage in the rec market, you can do something in the same square footage that you can grow that giant plant. You can plant a lot of small plants where you don't have to top, you don't have to thin, really don't even have to weed. Like if you do it small and a lot, it becomes like a sea of green, and it's a lot easier than growing. So your question is kind of, it's a hard question to answer because it's, you know, I don't normally top at all. I almost every day. I'm doing this, so it's kind of like back in the day when I was doing just trying to create a tabletop of colas. So like in a 10 by 80 square foot spot, I have like 130 plants. So 8 by 80, it's like 130 plants. And they're just crammed in there in a space where you just don't have to do a lot of work. Like it's easy, but it's not a number game for me anymore. So that's the difference.
8 by 80. What a beautiful canopy. I imagine that is.
Yeah, I just posted one of those on Instagram. My DJ Sharp Blueberry, I think it was, for my cherry pie. I got this new strain I'm working with. It's Mazar. It's from that town in Afghanistan, the Mazar High Sharif. Super chunky and super nice. I like the land race. I like the land race strains.
Which would you say
Yeah,
is the most medical beneficial strain that you have?
All yeah, all of them. Like what that's the question. What do you need? Like what do you need?
I guess that is a better question there. Fair enough. Fair enough. I guess that's
Yeah.
kind of what I.
There's no one
Uh,
perfect.
That's That's a really good.
Yeah, it just depends on what you need. Like, yeah, that's it's like kind of like being when you know the plant and you know breed things to bring forth those different options. Then it's like one man's haze is another man's nightmare. Like another one man's wonderful haze is another man's nightmare haze. You know, like heavy indica could be a fucking joy. It could be a nightmare. A good sativa could be a beautiful thing. It could be a terrible thing. And that's just indica sativa. Then it goes way deeper than that because there's so many compounds. So yeah. How can I help you, sir? That's what I like to say.
Fair enough. My daughter who's getting fresh into cannabis is always, that's her question is, what's it do? What's it do? And sometimes I have a hard time answering it for her. I answer more, it's like a little bit like yours. I'm like, just try it. You know, this is what it could do to you for you, but it affects everybody different. The best thing I can tell you is try it, see how it affects you, and if it is something that you like, take note of it.
Uh, where in your life, where in your life do you hurt? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? Then this plan has all the answers. As crazy as that sounds.
You know, and I think it does too. I think it takes its own path, not just, you know, how our bodies use it, you know, from smoking it, how it affects us. I think it if our bodies make that call as far as like edibles too. I've said that quite a bit. You know, take that same 200 milligram edible, good day, perfect health. Yeah, guess what? You're gonna get a recreational buzz out of that. But there's times I think that very same, you know, 200 milligram edible, bad back day, knees hurt. Guess what? No recreational buzz for you. Body's using it all for medicine. I think the body dictates, you know, how it's ultimately be.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors to edibles for sure. Edibles can be tricky. Edibles can be really tricky. Definitely not. I mean, I've made tons of medical edibles, and I've learned to not something you just want to hand out freely. Um, edibles can be tricky. I don't know how to totally explain that, but what was nice when we had medical here, when the medical market happened here in Oregon, things had to be like had packaging, and so you can see like the dosage. And I quickly learned that my doses was about like 50 to 80. You know, like I had friends that would be like, I would show up with the dose that worked for me and give it to them, and they'd be like, I want 3 more of those. You know, so edibles can be tricky. You have definitely with edibles, you have to know yourself. But they're very important, I think. Yeah, that was a tricky question you asked me. That was a good question.
The American one in chat is asking, you may have missed it. No, you didn't. haven't asked yet, but what are your IPM practices?
Oh, tea and bacteria and beneficial bacteria and fungal sprays. Yeah. I'm a big fan of OG Bioware. I believe it's from Capillator, who made the Mac before he was famous for the Mac. I think he has this company that he makes these beneficial bacterias with, and it's OG Bioware. I swear by the OG Bioware. I've seen it eradicate root aphids, spider mites, russet mites. It does a good job at holding powdery and molds and detritus and stuff at bay. It's a little expensive, but you brew it really nice in a 4-gallon bucket, and you can dilute that into up to like 500 gallons, or you can just use it straight up. And I like the OG Bioware. I like the beneficial teas. I recently got turned on to this stuff called it's Lost Coast. I'm not getting, just because I'm answering questions, I want to make sure that everyone's clear that I'm not promoting any company in particular. I just want people to know what works for me. And because I'm a recreational farmer, I have to go through strict testing, and I can't have the list here in Oregon. You can Google it. It's a long list of things that you can't have in your herb. I think it's good. I think it should be regulated like that. We should not be smoking poisons. But I'm really into the OG Bioware, and recently I've been using this stuff that's called Lost Coast Plant Therapy. And I've had just really good success with my spray, honestly, because I don't feel like whatever I spray on my plants is what I would eat it, you know, like I don't use chemicals. So yeah, my IPM is basically brewing tea. It's just molasses and earthworm castings and OG Bioware, and I use Lost Coast Plant Therapy. Once they're in the field, I just spray that tea. That tea I make, I can also feed it through my lines, and inoculate the soil with really good beneficials. Like I said, I've seen it eradicate root aphids. I've seen it eradicate russet mites. I've seen it eradicate pretty much a lot of things. So I hope that answers your question. That's what I do for IPMs.
That does answer my question there.
Prevention
So
goes a long ways.
that's very true. Very true. So I mean, so as far as that goes, do you defoliate quite a bit? I mean, for me, I know it goes against a lot of the norms, but I honestly think it's just that an ounce of prevention. To be honest with you, a little defoliate. Uh, I think that's where, if you're having problems, that's where they're going to harbor. It's in a lot of your older, larger leaves. So I believe, defoliating on a normal practice is part of that ounce of prevention. Getting anything old out of there, any problems that be hanging around is a huge part of that. Yeah. So do you do a lot of defoliating or no?
I don't actually. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the indoor situation, I definitely do a lot more cleanup. But but in the outside, I don't do hardly almost any. I don't have the. I'm running an acre. I don't have a lot of time to do that kind of stuff. And I've learned over the years that it it doesn't really make too much of a difference. I mean, there's definitely advantages and disadvantages to it. Yeah, I just don't have the time for it, so I don't really do it, and I really haven't noticed a big difference, honestly. It does make your sprays a lot more efficient if you're cleaned up in there. You know, your sprays are gonna hit more of the target areas. But yeah, I don't really do a lot of defoliation, and I don't do a lot of I never do dead leafing. Like I just figure like the plant, once the leaf turns yellow, it gets to that point where it just pretty much falls off by itself. And out in the outdoor, I even when I do go through and do weeding, but when I can't afford the time to do something like that, I usually just do that and I just drop it right there. I just leave it. I let it just decompose right into I don't do indoors, but outdoors I definitely need a little bit of like cleanups on the bottoms. I just leave it right there on the ground and just let it go back in. And the season when things start to get yellow and you know some of those lower water leaves and stuff will start to just drop off naturally. Yeah, I don't do a lot of plant care, like attention to detail. I mean, it creates a little more waste at the end of the day. But if you're doing some extraction or some other stuff, I mean, it all goes somewhere.
I think, well, outdoors, I mean, as far as
Right now, I have a
defoliation,
greenhouse.
I think it's a little different there because Mother Nature, I do believe, out there does step in and help out quite a bit out there.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on your feed formula too. I mean, if you know, things will yellow up sooner or later. Depends on what your formula is.
Your formula is doing pretty damn good. I mean, I've looked at your Instagram several times, man, and that your cannabis garden is pretty on point, my friend. For doing it mostly yourself, man, you're doing one hell of a job. That's quite some the endeavor for you, man. It's
Yeah. Yeah, I have one super solid helper right now that's helping me a lot, pulling tarps and doing the metric compute, keeping track of everything, making sure everything's tagged, you know, everything's accounted for in the different zones, making sure the cameras are up and running, making sure that, you know, the security is all dialed in, making sure the employees are all legal and have taken their tests. And so I'm very fortunate to have a really good helper right now. But yeah, for the most part, it's about a 2 or 3 man crew, and it's a lot of work, but I feel like it's worth it. Yeah, I don't know what else I do. Yeah, so I do my light depths about 4 weeks on a bunch of them right now, 4 weeks from harvest. I have one that's a couple weeks in, and it's a certain variety that as soon as I flipped it into flower, it just stretched and it's like poking out. So when I pull the cover on it, it's like poking in, like it's smashing things. So the other day I just went through there and just grabbed arms and just like went through and just like cracked them over and just laid the whole thing down. Now I've got like this little colas coming up. So gotta learn to adapt. Yeah. I hope my Instagram is a good representation of what I'm doing and trying to do.
Man, that light depth's a lot of work, man. I jokingly bitch about, the closest thing I get to light depth around here is these tents. The system I run is two different phases. There's on and off. So basically, when these go off, this set of tents go off, they get shut up, and then the other ones get opened. So that's as close as I get to the life depth. I'm committed. I'm committed to the open time, but not the dragging of the tarts.
Yeah, I totally understand, bro. I get it. Yep. It's a marriage. Cannabis is a marriage. There's no other way around it, honestly. I mean, some people are fortunate enough to have like fully automated, but even still in the back of their mind, they're married to that. She's a beautiful girl. She demands full attention.
That's funny you put it like that because this morning, uh, I slept through my alarm in like an hour, and that's like that's like leaving the significant of the wife at like the bus station or some shit. You're like, oh shit, that's a shot of adrenaline. You don't even get to go bed after that because you know what I mean. That little shot of reality.
No.
Get up, you do your thing, and you're like, ah, shit.
Yeah.
Now I'm wide awake.
Yeah.
Let's go do something.
Same. I mean, I pull my tarps, put them on at 7 at night and pull them off. But yeah, it's a marriage.
So as far as harvesting goes,
But
when do you like to harvest? Are you an early harvester for max terps, or do you let it go through the natural ripening swell phase outdoor? It seemed like, man, that seemed like what I would do personally if I had that sun to work with. That full ripening phase.
yeah,
Oof.
yeah, it's like when it's like 3/4 amber, those trichomes start turning amber, like 3/4. Yeah, you're losing some terps, but whatever. You're gaining weight, and there's still plenty of terps there, and it's still good. Yeah, yeah. I'm the same even around even ins or outs or whatever, depths, full season, whatever. Like 3/4. I like to see some. I like to see I like to see some clears. I like to see a decent amount of milkies, but I like when it's like that good amount of amber in there. I mean, I have a friend who does fresh frozen. Yeah, and the fresh frozen, they want it like not hardly any amber at all. As soon as it starts going amber, 10%, 20%, they take it. And it's all for the terps. That's good for some people. But I don't do constant. I smoke flower. I like a ripe flower. Why would you take a sunflower to eat the seeds, when it's only 10% done? Wait till it goes all the way. It's all juicy and plump, full of all everything. More time for all those, for everything to break down and turn into cannabinoids and
Well, that's another thing I've learned about the plant. Uh, it really, you go that far with it. There's how do I say this without sparking the spark that always ignites when you say this? Either in salts or organics, I think it alleviates the need for a flush. You let the plant go that long, it goes through its natural senescence, dying off, and it quits taking up shit. You know what I mean? It's literally just like
Yeah.
sipping water and spitting the nutrients back out. Like, oh no, I'm dying here, I'm dying here. So I, I think that's another plus of taking it that far. Yeah. So,
Yeah. I mean, the plant knows what it's doing. When those leaves get all the way sucked yellow and drop off on their own, it's because they're done. Like, those are the factories. Those water leaves, those are the factories. Like, they're pumping, they're working. Those big water leaves, they're working hard. They're pumping. And if they have the nutrients they can pull up and keep pumping, they're gonna keep pumping. When it runs out, or if the season Mother Nature says, all right, well now it's whether you're manipulating with a timer or whether it's the sun out in the sky, at some point the plant realizes the end is coming. Nothing lasts forever and it's time, and it just starts dropping away. But some people don't realize that or understand that, and they just keep pushing it, pushing it because they think they're going to get more, but they're just making it not. The product is not going to be as good at the end if you let the plant do its thing. Plant, Mother Nature knows what to do.
well, I kind of, even the plant kind of taught me a lesson about that, to be honest with you, this last run. It's, I ran these plants out, and same thing as we're talking about. I ran them, they yellowed out beautifully, got some nice color out of them. I would have considered I even, especially all by all points, would have considered it flush. Nothing but water for 2 solid weeks easy. You know what I mean? And
Oh yeah,
I would have considered that
heck
10
yeah,
gal
that's
nice,
what's up.
nice and flush. Nice and flush. Burned nice and clean.
Yeah,
I took them plants outdoors and figured, well, heck, I'm gonna have to, top dress these with some compost or something because they're gonna be hungry soon because I depleted that pot. And what happened was they sat out there for a week and I watered because we both know they're going through that re-veg uh, point. They don't need all that nutrients anywho. But what happened was them girls greened right back up out there in the sun
heck yeah.
after they realized they were going through another phase. Here I'm going through the mindset of thinking that pot is, depleted, well flushed. And here the plant's telling me, nah, I'm turning back on. I'm taking, there's still good things left in here. I'm just now taking it back in,
Yeah, and they have
you know.
and they have stored up. There's things in their leaves that they weren't able to use during flower that once they started going to the veg, there was sugars in there that they were like, oh, now we can use these sugars, that like these simple sugars. I mean, everything in life exists off the simple sugars. And sometimes we put a lot of stuff into something where the plant's using only part of it, but not all of it. Then you throw it into a different environment, then all of a sudden it can start using some of that other stuff. And plants are amazing. They build stores. I mean, they prepare for the long term or for their duration. I mean, some plants are annuals, some are perennials, but they all prepare. And sometimes they take things that they don't need, they'll just sit up in there. And yeah, if you give them time, or if you put them in a different environment, they'll use that stuff up. So it's funny, like sometimes in my field I feel like at the end of the previous season I'm feeding a lot of like flower food, like more towards bloom. Then what happens is then I harvest all that stuff, but there's no way they used all of that, even though once I start flushing them out, they start just eating from themselves. But there's still stuff in the soil that they don't need. It's available because there's, even when a plant is rooting, like really, flower food is better for a plant that's trying to grow roots, no matter what stage it's in. Like, so it depends on the environment, honestly. Like, it's interesting to hear you say where you throw out plants to get them to re-veg. Well, they have stores up in them that are probably not being used in flower, and some of that stuff might not ever get used if you take it all the way to flower and kill it and harvest the bud. But you put it back into veg, all of a sudden it's going to start pulling out of its stores because now it needs those things.
I've
And
actually
my old time, go ahead.
no go you go ahead, please. You're the guest.
One of the most amazing vegetable gardens I've ever saw was from my 82-year-old neighbor next door. He just passed away, but I know him for like 8 years. He was an amazing like pickler, canner, just old school, like kills bears and deers with a 22 rifle. I mean, he was just wow, just old school, super old school. But one of the most amazing vegetable gardens, and all he ever fed was triple 16. Like, it's all he ever talked about was this triple 16. He would grow the most amazing freaking garlic, green beans, peppers, tomatoes, squashes. His fruit trees, fucking amazing. So there's some lesson in that. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but if you have something triple across the board, the plant will just grab what it needs. Then then it's all about that flush. I'm not that guy yet.
So what I was gonna say when I came in there was we talked about earlier, you mentioned wet trimming. I'm a wet trimmer myself. Uh, I've never really seen detrimental effects from wet trimming. Heck, I even used a dryer today, to be honest with you. And I honestly come to a point to where I think that we've at one point we've thought that drying or like a rush dry was, I think it's more of a how you rush dry it, to be honest with you. I'm noticing that dryer that my terps, everything across the board stays the same. I don't notice any ill effects from using the dryer, to be honest with you. I think it's more of a quicker phase to preserve naturally. You know what I mean? The quicker you can dry it out with that, the quicker you're actually into that phase where no things aren't breaking down and being destroyed. If you can do it correctly. And I think that's the same thing with a wet trim. You get that advantage of a whole over a whole plant hang, but everybody always argues the fact that that whole plant hang uh and then dry trim offered more terps, but I don't think it isn't because of the dry time per se, to be honest with you. And they give a lot of credit to the leaves kind of surrounding the buds and holding it in. I don't think that's part of the equation either. I think it's more along the lines of what you spoke about during the re-veg there is uh it's stored nutrients. It's not surrounding the
Yes.
plant and holding it in. It's just like a dying flower or rose in a vase. It's pulling that moisture and nutrients out of there, and it's going through a longer dying phase. So I think any changes isn't because of the speed of the drying process. I think it's more available nutrients during a slower uh, drying process. I think.
Yeah, I can see that. I've definitely done it a lot of different ways. A lot of it has to do with the formula and the flush. Those last 2 weeks are crucial. You know, I think the last 2 weeks are super crucial. And then, I mean, of course, drying and curing is, you can take the most beautiful thing and you can totally destroy it by not processing it properly. But I don't think it has much, whether it's, I mean, it can be good, just as good dry or wet or with big leaves or without big leaves. I think I think it, if the grower does a good job, I think all those things are kind of like after the fact. I mean, I've done wet trim, I've done straight hang wet, and then with leave the water leaves. I'm a super advocate for getting rid of the water leaf. I mean, on my farm, I have trim pros. I have the fan with the, and I get all the water leaf off, and I just either bucket straight or hang it, depends on the situation. But I don't think it really has a lot to do with. I think it has more to do with the flush and the person paying attention to the dry process. If you harvest it, if you trim it wet versus if you hang it with water leaf versus whether you hang it wet without water leaf, whether you de-leaf it and then bucket and screen dry it. There's so many different ways to dry cannabis, and I think every different way can be done properly, and I think that just depends on the experience and the knowledge of the person managing that part of the process. Um, Personally, for me, I big leaf everything and bucket and screen dry it, and I don't lose terps. I mean, I've definitely done hangers. I've definitely done hangers with leaf and without leaf. Um, but when you're dealing with a large amount of product, it's best to get the water leaf off, get as much water out of it as possible. When you're dealing with a large amount, you want to get as much water off out of it, out of the gate. But once you are drying it without stock or without water leaf, you have to be very careful that you don't over dry and just lose all your terps. So like if you water leaf it and screen bucket and screen dry it, it's going to dry a lot faster, so you can keep moving through product in your dry room. But you have to take it off the racks in a perfect amount of time where you can put it into a bag or a tote or whatever it is, so that you can bring that moisture back out. I mean, any real good process, no matter how you do it, should be, in my opinion, 8 to 10 days before it's stored. And even at that point, when it's stored, it should still have cured
time going on. I mean, that's my thought on it. I really like throwing stuff in bags when it's like crispy on the outside but gooey on the inside. When you put that somewhere cold, it'll come out a year and a half later, pretty much just as fresh or just as good.
I greatly appreciate that answer. Greatly appreciate that answer. It does, I guess, really depend on, the knowledge of the dryer or the person in charge of drying. I I can't to this day imagine being on a larger scale where, I've got a big room set 60/60, have it all on a, tight schedule to where everything's, pretty much mad. You know what I mean? 60/60. They're going to be done exactly in 2 weeks. Go ahead and buck those. And da, 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 da. That would be nice. But in for more of a people like ourselves that have done it for a longer period of time, I appreciate the experience answer of it all, because there's times in my career, my growth journey there, uh, where you have to change up according to your environment. Uh, Basically, there's some times of the year, winter, where a wet trim is your friend. Help speed you up and keep you on board there. There's times where during, hot midsummer months where a whole plant hang with water leaves on is what you need to slow that process down. There's sometimes in the where you mid phase there, you need to buck those off to keep, So it really depend on the experience of the gentleman or person drying there. Good answer. Good answer.
You're definitely speaking. You're definitely speaking from experience. That because that's the ultimate answer that I'm talking about. Really, if you're a good grower, if you've been if you've been in the trenches and done the work and done the time and have had the fails or have watched people around you have those oh shit, and I'm happy to share that knowledge. I don't know if hopefully I'm adding to the community. I'm not sure, but I mean, I'd like to think that, like at this point, I have nothing to hide, and I only want to see people succeed, especially, people who are needing it or people who are not, pretty much I'm happy to help. Honestly, I want to see this plant prevail. I want it to be, just like any other part of society. But yeah, ultimately it comes down to experience and knowing where you can bend the rules, where you can fudge. I used to feed an acre of cannabis for $50,000. Wasn't sustainable. I went back to old school and started breeding teas. I was able to grow that same acre for under $8,000. The terps went up. The crop was just as nice. So, sometimes you have to adjust and jump in to something that might not feel right, but if you're growing and if you've been growing for a while, then it's like you can where you can fudge things, where you can do things a little bit different and know that there's more than one way to get the job done, and sometimes, like you said, you have to, it's hot and super dry. Yeah, you want to leave more moisture on the plant. That makes sense. My first year in Humboldt, lost my ass because I didn't know. The only place I had to dry was in a 24 by 50 foot greenhouse.
and I built racks, and I harvested probably like 300 or 400 pounds of AFGU. Put it all on hangers, put it in the greenhouse, didn't big leaf it. It rained for freaking all week long. You know, 2 days later, I opened up the greenhouse. The whole entire greenhouse was just one giant white fuzzball. You know, I lost in 2 days. I lost like 400 pounds. Just I wasn't prepared. I didn't know. I didn't have the experience, and I a couple people that had been on a couple other farms, and they're like, "Hey, well, maybe we should do this or that." Never occurred to me. So, you know, I learned. I learned. Um, Sometimes you learn the hard way. Sometimes you learn the easy way. But as a grower, you know, that's part of the journey. You know, um, I'm super thankful for that experience. As much as it costed me, as much as it hurt, like I'll never go down that road again. You know. So,
I love that Afghani bud. That breaks my heart to hear that.
I love FQ too. We were that year we were out there in Humboldt harvesting until January 15th. Giant, giant plants just full of mold. And I'm just like harvesting grams, like just trying to salvage grams. Yeah. Pretty cool to see some giant plants in freaking January. Snow on them, you know, just. But there are still grams. Every gram counts. Like.
What has been your longest run strain? With the longest run time there?
Mikado Kush. Yeah. Mikado Kush. Zero mold. Went all the way super long. And the first week zero mold, super, it was a purpley, and I mean, it wasn't super chunky. It was good, really good smoke. But yeah, that one went planted like first week of June and went all the way until January with no mold, and just it was nice. I wish I could have kept that strain. Other than that, the hazes do really well. Hazes are pretty mold resistant, and they'll go long. They'll go sometimes like 12 weeks. Jack Rare, Pineapple Express. But the roots of all that is Super Silver Haze from Sensi Seed. It's a haze, South African strain, just goes so long. But it's humid down there, so it doesn't mold, which is good. Yeah, hazes go long. But that Mikado was something incredible. Mikado Kush. If anyone's got that Mikado Kush or that Super Silver or the Super Skunk out there, hit me on the DM or something.
I wouldn't be surprised that DM gets
Short
ranked.
strains, Lucky comes in. Yeah, that Lucky comes in September 25th. Super nice. The earliest strain I have. And what else? Yeah, my Hindu crossed with Boba Kush and White Dog comes in early. The Hindu brings it in early, the Bubba Kush makes it fatter, and the White Dog makes it more frosty.
So, what are your thoughts on
And this has been fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, my friend. I've greatly enjoyed the conversation. I, to be honest with you, I kind of really hope that we can do this again some other time on a one-on-one basis because I kind of really feel like,
Yeah, that'd be good.
as far as the art of growing goes, I kind of feel like we got to know you, but I think there's a lot to be learned from a great gentleman like yourself as far as just growing tips in general and other fun stuff. So it'd be fun to get you back and talk to you again on another one-on-one. But before we kind of wrap this up, I want to tell you a couple of other aspects of what goes on here and give you another extended invitation here. So basically, what goes on here every night, I'm trying to get it back on schedule. I went I went a year without missing a day, pretty much. I did this every night from 11:30 to 4:20 every night. Kind of taken a few days off since I've taken things into year two, but not as many days off. But basically, every night I try to kick the show off or the evening off with a great guest, much like yourself. You've been a fun guest with a lot of great knowledge, and I'm sure a lot of people are hitting your Instagram up for follows. So once that this portion of the show kind of falls a little short, we I basically end this out and I pick up again and finish out the night with what I call the wormhole. Wormhole is basically filler for the every night to take it down to that 4:20 hour. Monday night is always a wormhole, but what I'm getting to is that the wormholes are open to all past guests, you, including your invitation starts now. Anytime that you get a notification and you see that it is indeed a wormhole, and you're tuning in, and it strikes the conversation, strikes something that you're interested in, uh, feel free to grab a phone or whatever and come hang out. Smoke, talk cannabis, talk whatever we're talking about. You don't really need an invite, just to want to come hang out in the community, my friend. So keep this Zoom link.
Yeah,
It's
that's
always
awesome.
good. It's always good. And I thank you.
Yeah,
I thank you for your time.
yeah, yeah, I'd like to do at some point. I think I like kind of like the question and answer kind of thing. I'm sure there's people out there that have questions, and I'd like to kind of address some of that stuff and share some of my knowledge if anybody's interested in doing something like that. Or yeah, I'm just I think it's a great thing you got going on, allowing people to share in their knowledge and their experience. I feel like it's a really safe place. I mean, yeah, you're doing a good thing. So yeah, I like to share at this point. For a long time, I came from such the old school where everything was so secretive and protected and everything was so hidden and underground. And I'm happy to have gone through all that. And I'm happy to be here at this place now where I feel like I have nothing really to hide anymore. And the more I can share, the better for the community and and for the plant and for the people and for this planet, honestly. So ask me questions. Like I want to be able, I want to give you my perspective. I know some things, I don't know everything. I'll never say that I have the answer. I think that, we all have something to offer, and I'm thankful again for this opportunity. Let's do it again.
Man, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity as well. And one of the reasons why I do this is to, show everybody the different reasons why we're passionate about what we're doing, to show everybody that there is more than one way to skin a cat, if you will, and, to take on their own kind of game plan, pick and choose good ideas, good techniques, and apply them in a way that it fits their grow and their environment. Uh, so the only way to do that is to bring as many great people on as I can, and you're no exception to the rule, man. This has been a great episode, and I'm definitely looking forward to a round two. Right?
Yeah, let me know. I'm down. I'd like to do it maybe. So it's only at night though, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
eight,
Unfortunately, it's only
8:30. Which makes sense. Yeah. Well, that's good. I'd like to maybe I'll do a little virtual video through the garden or something and send it your way.
that would
Yeah.
be awesome. That would be awesome.
Cool.
And just for future notices, you can like screen share, like what I mean. So like you had the buddy earlier, you could have screen shared his page or information. You could during the interview, show us
Okay.
a video of your garden, and all that is completely possible during another episode.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
um,
I'm not super tech savvy. This actually I had a friend help me set up the Zoom, and I don't do a lot of tech savvy stuff. I'm kind of old school, and give me a shovel or give me a hoe, you know, give me some water line parts, give me some basic electrical stuff so I can make shit fire up. I'm good at that kind of stuff, but I'm not very tech savvy, I like to say, but I'm trying to learn. My grandpa's 92 years old and he's learning how to use his iPhone and sending texts and emails, and he's got some kind of social media thing that he works on and stuff. So it's never too late to learn tech
awesome.
or music or a language. Yeah. Or how to grow
So
plants.
cool.
Yeah.
One last thing
All
I'd
right.
like
Well,
to
thank
get
you so
from
much for having this space.
one last thing, one last thing before you go, my friend. It's kind of corny, but kind of like one of my signatures of the show. It's I do like an old school like soundbite. You asked me if I recorded the show. This is the part that I record for lazy sake that I don't have to go back and clip this out. So basically, what I'm looking for is kind of the old school like artists on the radio there when they come on. They'd be like, "Hey, this is Panther, and I'm on 105.5 or whatever." So that's what I'm kind of looking for. And
Right.
my version would be like, "Hey, this is Eagle, and I'm on fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 429. You can add whatever you want to it as long as that has the base to it." Uh, I would greatly appreciate your soundbite for this episode, my friend.
All right. Here we go. What up, cannabis community out there? This is Michael from Herbal Ally, hanging it with fucking talking shit with Eagle. It's been a great night. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a wonderful evening. Happy cannabis growing. Something like that work?
Perfect sound bite for a
Yes.
great episode, my friend. Again,
All
thank
right.
you for your time. Thank you,
All-
moreover, for
I
your
got all the
late work,
lingo
what
right.
you've
All the names are right.
done.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for all the legwork you've done,
Right.
not just for what you're doing currently, but helping getting this ball rolling. I do appreciate that shit, man. Knocking them doors, such signatures meant everything to what's going on today, my friend. And I for one,
Yeah.
really appreciate this.
I really appreciate you, bro, that you're what's up. This is your like a lot of those people are you know passing away aren't here. You're carrying the torch. You're a freedom fighter. You're a freedom fighter because you're doing this publicly. You're putting yourself out there. You're bringing people. You're creating space. Give it up for the freedom fighters. One love. Much appreciated. Let's definitely do this again. If I ever
Thank
get
you
out
for
to
them
Michigan,
kind words.
I would love to visit. If you ever come to Oregon, if you ever come to Oregon, you got a spot.
Oh, you same here, my friend. Same here. Please look me up. I'd be offended if you didn't. With that being said, thank you guys, man. We still got 52 watching currently. Thank you guys, man. They've said nothing but
Nice.
great things throughout this episode. I know they have great enjoyed it as much as I have. So thank you, thank them. Uh, you guys know the deal. Uh, Random acts of kindness do save lives. I'm not afraid to say that night after night or be an example of it. So thank you. Thank you, Michael. And I'll see you guys in a few. Have a good night.
One
We are
love.
out of here.
Peace.
Peace. Bye bye. Thank